Welcome back, everybody, to another lesson, another part of this steam boiler model. In this lesson, we are going to be starting with other things. If you remember, in last lesson, we created this plate. Now it's time to add some pipes like this. So what these pipes are for is so they connect to a water source, right? Water comes up and goes to this wiggly thing, zigzag pattern. So it stays over here a lot. It goes into the steam boiler where it turns into steam. And I think I said this last time, but the reason it zigzags over here is because fire. Outside, there's a coal grate. There's a grate for coal to heat up, and then heat goes to here. And mainly it heats at this part, but it wants to warm up the water in this pipe, so it's easy. So it heats up faster over here, so that's why these pipes are zigzag, so they are more exposed to the heat. And yeah, that's basically what we did. What we're doing today. So let's call that the feeding pipe. Let's do this because I want to be fancy. Feeding pipe. So it runs along the y-axis. Has limited vertical span. You'll understand all of these later. The vertical cylinders, the rotation, 0, 0, 0. Horizontal along y. Rotation is math.radians 90, 0, 0. And a lot of these will make sense very soon. Actually, I might explain some of them now. So, along the Y, so the cylinders are the pipes. They're cylinder shaped. Alright. So the cylinders are vertical. So these that connect these zigzags, they have no rotation because that's, I think, up here. When we define the geometry, I won't scroll all the way up to where that happened. We made it so that it automatically stands up. Actually, no, we didn't make it automatically stands up. We had it that they have a rotation parameter. And here was where the rotation parameter stands 0, 0, 0 is make it stands up, and then we did 90 degrees on the x-axis. So that it can be horizontal along the y. Okay, so how are we going to code in all of this? Oh, we're going to use a for loop because, well, we want to edit like the amount of zigzags we have without it like messing up, so it can automatically control the spacing and stuff. It was cool. And we use variables and stuff, equations to create that. And then finally we use a for loop to, make sure everything is all connected and everything connects and it works. So let's first start with a list of segments. It's empty for now, but it's gonna fill up. Now let's start with the variables. So the ground Z, it's just bottom Z, outside X, is center X, outside Y, center Y, plus half of dy plus 0.8. So here the y-axis is center plus 0.8. Now the vertical outside segment. So what I just did was this ground start. Now let's start with a segment, because we only need the full loop for the zigzag here and the variables, the equations and everything for here, right? Over here, well, it's just set. All we need is this, so it is not really returned. So entry, I spelled entry wrong. Z equal bottom Z plus 1. V out length is entry Z minus ground Z. V out mid is ground Z plus entry Z divided by 2.0. And that's all the variables before we use the geometry cylinder thing, so let's explain them right now. So obviously we have rhyme Z plus 1, so the Z coordinate of this is plus 1. The length, well, is the top entry Z minus the ground Z, bottom ground Z to get the total length. V out mid. Okay. Here's the ground plus the entry divided by 2 to get the middle. That's why it's called mid. Right. And then seg V out is geometry, that's cylinder. Feed pipe vert outside. And I used different quotation marks, so that's the name. The radius, V out length, outside X, outside Y, V underscore out underscore mid, and then the rotation 0, 0, 0. See, vertical 0, 0, 0 for the rotation. And segments dot append segment V out. So then we add it into the thing. And actually at the return, we're gonna have segments that append after every pipe we build, so might as well, you know. Let's see if it works. Right. So now that we've returned it in this function, it spits out and it works fine. Which, okay, it's good, right? We want that. So now let's continue. So next thing we have is elbow into chamber. So this thing that goes into the chamber. That's what we're gonna be building. So the elbow length, abs outside, y minus center, minus center y. Elbow length. So this absolute value outside y minus center y. Elbow mid y is outside y plus center y divided by 2.0. Elbow is geometry dot cylinder feed pipe elbow in self dot pipe radius elbow length outside x elbow mid y entry z. So we're just putting in all our variables here, and then since it's horizontal, remember our comment earlier, right? The z has to be, not the z, the x has to be rotated 90 degrees radiant, 90 radians, not 90 degrees radians. That's everything. And then, yeah, let's add that 2 segments now. The segments list. And elbow mod y is not defined. That's because I spelled it wrong. And we have the okay. Now it's time for the fun part where we, make the for loop. And the equations and everything. So first, let's define some things. Now first off, in our variables we're gonna call these things runs. Okay. So yeah, in our variables you might see it. You're gonna see me use that word. You can use whatever you want to your code, but I'm gonna use runs. Self.height times 0.45 usable, just usable runs. Bottom is entry z runs spacing usable z span divided by self dot runs. So the spacing, you can see I spelled everything wrong, but you see that using equations to ensure the spacing is the spacing and the width and things are equations, so that when we make so that if we change the number of runs, it'll still look like it makes sense instead of like going all over the place. Run y start center y plus, not plus, minus run length divided by 2 run y, and is center y plus run length divided by 2 run x is center x for I in range. So here's our for loop. Self dot runs. So let's first look at the z axis, the z coordinate. So I times the run spacing. So the run spacing let's delete the S. I think it makes more sense than runs space. So usable z span. So the height. So 0.45 the height times I plus run's bottom is going to be the z of the run, and I changes every time. So it goes this. Run mid y. Run y start plus run y end divided by 2.0 radiator run the geometry dot source under f feed pipe run. So 2 digits, so it's 7.0 if you want to. It's like if it's an integer, it's like 1.0. Yes. Run length. Don't worry, I'll explain everything. I'm just going over the code first. Run x. So the variables in here, which we already know, and then since it's horizontal, it's 90 radians. Okay. So when we run z, the middle of the y is the start plus the end divided by 2. So average them out to get the middle, and then this is the name. This is going to be a number, so it's going to be I point something. Since it's a whole number, it's going to be 0.0, I think. And then we're not done, but we're gonna first append run and see what we get. We get nothing because we have invalid syntax. Do we need this? Run x is not defined. Oh, this is supposed to be run x. Alright. See? These are all the pipes we needed. Except it isn't, because we need to, connect them. But if you notice here that the connectors alternate. So we have to figure out some way to alternate the code. So I think there's some way you can change. Oh, okay, never mind. And that's going to be an if statement. If the I is smaller than self.runs -1. So basically all of these except for the last one, because the last one we do this instead of making a vertical thing. Next, z is the runs bottom plus I plus 1 times run spacing. So whatever I is, you add 1. Multiply that by the spacing. So whatever the space it is, then you add the bottom to it to make sure it lines up with this. Let's forget the VLAN is next z minus run z, and then length. So VLAN is length run z plus next z to get the middle, right? And then let's alternate it. So end y has a run, y start if I modulus 2 is 0. So if the y is divisible by 2, then put it in the start, so here. Otherwise you put it in the end, so the other side. that way you make sure it alternates, and then obviously you use those variables. We've already done this many times. It's not connector many times before. You use the geometry thing we defined earlier to v v outside of v to make everything plug in your variables that you have, and then since it's vertical, you know the rotation is 0, 0, 0. Let's try it. We got an error. That's okay. Oh, it's supposed to be an equal sign. And there we go. It's alternating so that it has that zigzag pattern. Now, that is it for today. Next lesson, we'll add this, and we'll explain them then. But other than that, bye.